Welcome to the Clockwork Percussion Podcast. Today's guest is Brandon Hardy.
Hey,
Thanks for being here, man.
yeah, dude. Thanks for being here. Thanks
Actually,
for driving up. Yeah,
yeah, I should say it that way. And thanks for having me. So we are in Downtown Rehearsal Studios.
Downtown Rehearsal in downtown Los Angeles.
Very cool.
And our room, it's one of the west-facing rooms, so we have a really pretty window view of, like the downtown skyline and the new 6th Street Bridge that they built, and
Yeah,
it's really inspiring to be in this room.
it really is. I mean, you get like a beautiful cityscape. You have the train.
Yeah, you can hear it.
You mentioned that you have the fire escape exit. So I mean, like cigarette break.
Yeah, I quit smoking a couple years ago, but before then, that's absolutely what we used.
Yeah.
It was our little smoking patio.
Totally. And then how large is this room?
I actually don't know. I've been in a couple different rooms in this building, but this one is at least twice, maybe 3 times as big as any of the other rooms that I've been in. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say it's like 40 by 15 at least,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
It's pretty nice.
yeah. Spacious. It's nice to not feel cramped.
Totally. Yeah, for like creating music, it's just wide
I
open.
mean, we have a coffee table.
Yeah, and like a bed just in case.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've all had our times of having too much fun at practice and needing to just sleep it off.
Right. Nice. Well, the idea is just to get to know you better as a drummer.
Yeah.
That being said, how did you get started?
I was a teenager. Or honestly, maybe not even. I think it was 7th grade, and I just had always wanted to play drums. Always thought it seemed so cool, and just started bringing it up to my parents. And then for Christmas of 7th grade, my dad got me. It was like a practice pad kit where it was like one little like stand with a couple different booms that had different drum pads on it to
The DW one?
I don't even remember. It was, when were we in 7th grade?
Yeah.
99, 2000.
Right, right.
And I loved it, and I would just put headphones on and play along to whatever. And I played it so much and so hard that I destroyed it. Like I broke it.
Wow.
And my dad kind of looked at that and was like, okay, I mean, it's clear that you are passionate about this and you like this. And he gave me such an amazing offer where he told me like, okay, if you save up half of what it costs to buy a drum kit, I'll pay the other half. And so it was just, whatever chores and side jobs and whatever I could do to save up. I remember I was looking through different like Guitar Center catalogs and stuff, and I had seen like just the cheapest drum kit that I could find, and that was what I wanted because that was the cheapest one. And saving, and then when I approached my dad about it, he looked at it and he's like, that looks terrible, that's like a piece of junk. And he's like, I bet we could find you something used that's going to be similar price but way better quality.
Smart.
And so we went, it was like Penny Saver or whatever it was back then. It wasn't online. It was like in print. And we found, it was a Pearl Export black kit, and it came with a ride, a hi-hat, a crash, and the accompanying stands. And I think it was like $500. And it was, we went and drove and picked it up from this dude who I thought he looked so old, but in reality, he was probably only like 19 or something. And he told us that he had bought it and played it for a little while and had just been sitting in his garage collecting dust for years. And I played the hell out of that thing. I had it for years and years. I took it on tour. I recorded with it. And what was the question? That's kind of how I got started.
How you got started. That's epic, man. So yeah, you were looking at like probably like a sound percussion, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
You know,
and
that you wouldn't, you probably would have gotten it and been like, okay, cool. But like, then you got the Pearl Export, which is the next step up.
yeah, like not that it's like oh so amazing of a kit, but for what I was doing then, it was exactly what I needed.
Nice.
And I had it for years and years too. I eventually upgraded to something nicer, but I don't know. R.I.P. to that Black Pearl export kit. I let a buddy borrow it, and I just never saw it again.
Oh man, the borrow tax.
Yeah.
So what was the first band that you played in?
So you and I've known each other a long time. We grew up together, so you know all of the people that I was in my first bands with.
Yeah.
So I had a band in 8th grade, maybe 8th or ninth grade, and it must have been ninth grade because we were called the Dinkles, which was we were all in marching band, and we thought that the name of the brand of the marching shoes that were part of our uniform, Dinkles, we thought was so funny, so we named our band the Dinkles.
Okay.
But that was pretty short-lived, and very shortly after that, I don't even know how many songs we would have had, probably not many. But very shortly after that, I had another band that we thought we were so cool. We were called Undefined.
I think I remember that. Was that who was in that band?
That was me, Alan Arjad, and Brian Cook.
Brian Cook.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember Undefined. That's sick.
We got 3rd place at our freshman year of high school's Battle of the Bands.
Yeah, you guys played Geek Stink Breath, right?
We did, yeah. We covered Green Day.
Fucking sick, dude. They're my all-time favorite band.
I mean, that's, talk about a band that, like, changed the trajectory of everything I wanted to do,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think, their VH1 gives credit to Nirvana for really breaking that open, but then Green Day, like, made it huge.
Totally.
you
Yeah,
know? And plus, Kurt Cobain shot himself, so that was
yeah. And I feel like, you and I were that perfect age to be, like, swept right into what they were doing, and that kind of was like a springboard for me to getting into other kinds of punk music and on.
awesome. So, what are you doing now?
So many things, but I'm playing drums in a band called Giant Waste of Man. It's like indie rock, rock and roll, kind of hard to put it into like one single box, but we rehearse here. We are sometimes a 4-piece, usually a 5-piece. It's myself, and then my bandmates Ben and Heather Haywood are married, and they play guitar and bass, and both sing. And then our friend Cameron, my friend Cameron, who's singing probably more of the lead vocals. Like Ben and Cam kind of go back and forth, but Cameron Demetric on guitar and keys and sax.
Wow.
And then our friend Scott Mercado lives down in San Diego, and he comes up and plays almost every show with us. I think we've only played 2 or 3 shows without him, but he's just fantastic and makes us sound and feel so professional.
What does he play?
Keys, piano, mostly, but he'll play guitar here and there. He sings backup vocals on a bunch of things.
Okay. Cool. So, how long have you guys been a band for?
2019, 18, 19. It started off as a project that was just Ben and Cam. They wanted to write a batch of songs, record them, and then move on. And of course, as it goes, they were really, as they were writing and recording these songs, they put more and more attention and energy into it and got more and more excited about it, and realized, like, wait, no, we actually like this. Like, we want to play a show with this. But it was just the 2 of them, and they'd recorded all of these instruments. And so they asked me to play drums for them for the live version of the band. And we played a couple shows as a 3-piece, and then decided we wanted to grow even more. And so Ben's wife, Heather, is a fantastic musician herself and has played in so many bands. Her and Ben have played in bands together too. And so we brought her in to play bass, and she has a beautiful voice. We knew that we were going to be so excited to have her singing with us. And I don't even know how many shows we would have played as that 4-piece version before COVID. And then, everything kind of came to a grinding halt.
Yeah.
But it's one of those weird things where we had plans to go in and track a full length in May of that year of 2020, and as with everybody's plans, didn't happen, and it got postponed, and we ended up pushing the first session all the way back to October of that year. I think we were there over Halloween. But what ended up happening is it just gave us that much more time to work on the songs, and I feel like the songs came out a lot better because of that. You know, like we had more time to put into them than we had initially allotted.
Right. So you guys released a record when?
Just over a year ago. We
Okay.
put out a full length on gatefold double vinyl. And,
Wow.
just over a year ago, I saw on like the Memories thing online, and it was like, oh yeah, we played our release show like 3 days ago, a year ago.
Nice.
And it's been really fun. And we're already, I mean, you see this whiteboard right next to you. This is our next record that we're already diving into. We've got a handful of things kind of mapped out. We already did one session with our buddy Bob, who produced the last record, and he has a studio up in Seattle.
Wow.
So we flew up there and tracked for a week with him, which was nice because my wife's family's up there too. So we also
Okay.
like wife and kid came up, and we were
Yeah.
able to like turn it into a trip to hang out with the family too.
Can I ask this track Gata? Is that a Battlestar Galactica reference?
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure. You'd have to ask Cameron.
Okay.
But that was one of the songs that we put a dent in up in Seattle. We didn't finish it, but it's gonna be a weird one, an interesting one. It's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a character in that show named Lieutenant Gata, I think, and
I
he has
wonder.
an epic story arc in the show.
I wonder. I'd never pinned Cam as a fan, but maybe he is, and I didn't know.
Right on. So that's cool. Have you guys, of course, you played shows in the area, but any tours or?
Nothing on the books right now. Like we're currently just in writing mode, and I think we're going to do at least one, probably two more sessions for tracking for this next record. And because we like to take it kind of like chunks at a time, it's like that just gives us time to focus on 3 or 4 songs instead
Yeah.
of trying to go in with 15 songs. It's like, let's just do like a grip of these and make sure that these are the ones that we're primed and ready for. And we just haven't really planned beyond that. Touring's been kind of tough, just for me because I have the kid now. So
Yeah.
it's tough on the family for me to head out of town. We don't have a ton of childcare.
For sure. Yeah, that's got to be tough. But do you have much tour experience before in the past?
Well, yeah, with other bands in the past, we've done, like various bands, doing like up and down the West Coast and back. We did loops around Texas and back. Went to South by Southwest a handful of years in a row, and that was always fun.
Did you live in Texas for a time?
I didn't. My dad did for a little while, so I'd go out and like visit him, and
Okay.
then for many years I was playing in a band called Future Ghost, which we eventually changed our band name to Missing Teen, and we were a 3-piece, and my 2 bandmates were both from small town Southeast Texas,
Okay.
and so we'd go out there.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool. Who's your favorite drummer?
Man, I knew you were going to ask this. I'm always so bad with this question whenever people ask. And it just kind of depends on my mood. It depends on the style we're talking about, Yeah, because like if I think about old jazz drummers that, certainly helped get me started in thinking about it, then of course, like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich and Max
yeah.
Roach and
For
those
sure.
guys are all so amazing. But then, I think about, oh my God, I'm so bad with names. Why am I blanking his name? Drummer from The Police.
Stuart Copeland.
Stuart Copeland.
Yeah.
It's like he's one that would always get me really like open my mind up on like, wow, I wouldn't have written a drum part like that, or like the rest of the instrumentation is still cruising the same, but the drums changed, which changes the whole feel of the song.
Yeah.
He was always a fun one. Or, I loved so many like heavier drummers and hardcore drummers, and like Gabe from The Locust, like used to blow my mind. I know. I mean, I know that you're a big fan too.
All-time favorite drummer.
And then what's his name from Converge? Like Ben Kohler?
Yeah, Ben Kohler,
Dude. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And then like so many indie rock drummers too. The dude from Sunny Day Real Estate, William Goldsmith. He's great. And Ryan Pope from Get Up Kids, like that something to write home about. Like the drums on that record totally changed my world. Riley Breckenridge from Thrice, like he
For
just
sure. Yeah.
definitely a huge early influence.
Rock solid drummer.
Rock solid. And it was interesting too, because because they were kind of a local band for us growing up that grew and blew up. And because of that, I feel like we kind of like watched him get better as a drummer too, like going from those like early records to what they have become. It's like he's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Really creative stuff. I mean, on the early stuff too, like Illusion of Safety, it wasn't just like the tip. They did, breakdowns and cool double pedal work, but he had a lot of, I don't know, it felt like more like opened up kind of drumming. And then you listen to their more like contemporary stuff, like after like Beggars and On. And it's like the songwriting changed a lot, but it's like really just mature, like great drumming.
They like started diving into so many different time signatures and stuff too.
Yeah.
Which with things like that, when you're changing around the time signatures, then all of a sudden the way you approach writing a beat is just shifted, and you can make a hook in your drum beat, right out of the bat. Right off the bat.
Yeah, that song "The Window" off of one of their recent albums. I don't know what time it's in, but it's a really cool beat that he does for that song. And they used to practice at the rehearsal studio that my band rents at.
Oh, cool.
And it was kind of crazy because the first room that I had with my old band Sprawl Out,
I remember that band.
we left that room, and then I got another room, and the owner was like, "Oh, this is Thrice's old room." And I was like, "Oh, fuck yeah, that's sick."
Yeah, that's rad.
And then my old room, the first room, was just getting used by a drummer, and this was like before Thrice had announced that they were coming back. It's like during their hiatus. And I was going to the bathroom, and I didn't realize it, but I ran into Riley. Like I just didn't know what he looked like,
How cool. Yeah,
because it'd just been so long since like high school, seeing him shows and whatever. And
just out of context too.
yeah, exactly. And he walked out of my old room, and I was like, when I put it together later, I was like, what the fuck? That is so crazy. And then I moved out of the second room, and the owner, Luke, told me that Thrice moved back in to their old room.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've just been kind of like dancing and playing like musical chairs with rooms with them.
yeah, exactly.
How cool.
One day I'll maybe be able to tell them that story, and they'll get a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
But
I bet they'd like that.
you mentioned Stuart Copeland, and when I pulled out the drum pad, you were doing rudiments in match grip.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, it's not how I don't typically
Not
play.
trad grip, not match.
Yeah, and traditionally, I mean, whenever I'm on a drum pad, like that's kind of my go-to, just because when I, all 4 years of high school, I did the marching band, concert band, jazz band, which also acts as the extent of my drum lessons. I didn't take lessons beyond that, but when you're playing in, like marching band or jazz band as well, it's like it's all traditional grip, and they were really, intent with making sure that we had proper technique with it too. And so whenever I pick up a drum pad, that's my go-to. But when I'm sitting behind the kit and playing in Giant Waste Man or any of the other bands I played in, I'm always match grip.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's a very cool drummer. Like he does, you were saying, like he does stuff where the song will be kind of like linear, and then he'll play fucking, like he'll do like a lot of like snare crash cymbals on one.
Yeah,
like
totally.
to like really break up the part, and
Yeah.
like a lot of like hi-hat kick drum stuff like you hear in reggae and
Yeah, I was gonna say they like lean into like the reggae kind of feel, which comes with a lot of upbeat things and like that on the ands of the beat and
yeah.
all of that kind of stuff. I look at drums as like a really mathematical thing, and when I listen to a drummer like Stuart Copeland, it's like it's also mathematically satisfying, because he lands it and it's like it sounds weird, but if you really analyze what he's doing, like it makes sense.
Right. So this kind of leads into my next question. What sticks do you use?
I've kind of bounced around over the years, but I always end up coming back to 5Bs.
Okay.
I've been on ProMarks for a while now, but I was on Vic Firth for years, but I feel like the wood changed or something, and like I was breaking them faster.
Interesting.
I
Do you use the forward weighted or the back weighted ProMarks? I know there's some differentiation they offer.
whatever's the standard. Yeah, like I know that there's drumstick technology has grown beyond me.
Yeah.
Just like whatever is the easy one. But always wood tip.
Okay.
Like I can't understand people that play nylon tip. Anytime I do, they fly off.
The tips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just because I'm a loud drummer. I'm a heavy hitter drummer. So
That's what's up. Yeah, I feel the same way. The first time I broke off the nylon tip, I was like, these are useless.
Yeah.
This is
I
stupid.
think I bought a pair once, and I've never gone back.
Right on. Dude, it's funny because a lot of times when I walk into the Fountain Valley Guitar Center, I'll always remember, dude, you walked in and like we were both happened to be shopping there. You walk in and you're just like, yep, just here to get like it was like a 21-inch Sweet Ride or something. And you're like, yeah, I just keep breaking them, but I love it. And like,
Oh
you
my
just,
gosh,
it was like such a commodity, dude. You just like walked in and walked out. And I was like, motherfucker knows exactly what he wants. That's awesome.
I mean, I don't go through cymbals quite as rapidly these days, but for a long time there, you're right. I was flying through them, and specifically that Zildjian 21-inch Sweet Ride, which is a great cymbal. I love that cymbal. But what I would do, and like, I don't know, I don't want Guitar Center to like get mad at me, but what I would do is, they have that extended warranty that you can
Okay.
put, you pay $30, and then all of a sudden now it's covered for anything for 2 years. And it's like, absolutely, I'm going to break it within 2 years.
Hell yeah.
And so then I'd get a new one, and then I would put the $30 on that new one. So it's like, every 8 or 9 months or so, I'd pay $30 for a brand new cymbal, and I did that for years.
Oh, wow.
I was just working the system.
That's genius, dude. I never thought about that.
But then one time I was playing some show, this was years ago, and we were excited about the show, and my cymbal that I had at the time, my ride at the time, was cracked beyond being usable, and for whatever reason I didn't just go get a new cymbal, but I wanted to sound really good at whatever the show was, and so I borrowed a Groove Ride, similar to what I have over there. I borrowed the I think it's Sabian, right? Sabian HHX 21-inch Groove Ride I borrowed from our buddy Corey Blaine.
Okay.
And friend of the podcast. And it blew me away. I loved that cymbal, and I'd been on that same Zildjian for so long that playing on a different ride, I was like, whoa, there are other cymbals out there. And honestly, I never went back. The next time I bought a cymbal, I ripped off Corey, and I think there's something to be said about how it's a thinner cymbal, so there's more give to it, and I
Okay.
don't break them as quickly.
Interesting.
I'm also not playing as often these days. Back then I was playing in 3 bands, 4 or 5 nights a week, and I would just fly through those cymbals.
Yeah, I think the more experience that we get, like the more nuance comes with playing, and
That
we
too.
play a little bit lighter. When you record, the engineer is always like, dude, stop hitting the cymbals
Yeah,
hard.
lay back on the cymbals. I also think the styles I'm playing in, like Giant Waste of Man, isn't as heavy and loud as some of the other bands I've played in the past.
Right.
So, I always use my ride as a crash.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's rad. Sabian is my preference definitely for ride cymbals.
Yeah.
I am I should probably branch out because I think the only other ride I've owned is like a couple Pisties.
which are cool too.
Yeah, but I have the AAX dry ride, and I've had that thing for over a decade. Love it.
Yeah.
The HHX, dude, that's awesome. So let's get into your kit. What are you playing?
It is a 1970 Ludwig. I feel so bad that I don't know what kind of wood the shells are, but
It's beautiful.
it's the ones that they made a bunch of back then. I bought it probably 12-ish years ago, and I found it on Craigslist, and it was kind of funny, you know. So I had been on the hunt I wanted like a vintage, like kind of wood stained kit. And I loved Ludwigs, but I was also looking for Rogers. I was looking for Slingerlands. I was looking for, you know, whatever I could find. And I came across this one and went up to pick it up from this guy in the valley. And he was telling me that he'd been, you know, had way too many drum kits and his wife was making him downsize. So he was getting rid of a couple things. And so I bought this. And when I get home later that night, he sends me another email with a couple of photos of him with the drum kit. One of them was a photo of him on the day he bought it, brand new, in 1970. And he's like sitting up all like kind of proper, and he's got a really trimmed little mustache, and he's looking super clean cut. And then he sent me another photo of him from the late 70s of him using it to record on a Carole King track at Capitol Records in Hollywood, and his hair is all long. He's all like, you know, rockered out. And he was just, you know, sent me those photos as a little memento, and he was like, here, you know, just so you have a little bit of the history of the kit and you know where it's been. I'm like, wow. And he cared about where it went. You know, he was asking me about my band and what I was going to be doing with the drum kit, and I think it was really a sentimental thing for him and probably a big deal for him to give it up.
Yeah, especially if you bought it brand new, and like that's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, your wife's like, get rid of this kit.
But I mean, I wish that I had like kept in contact with him and gotten to know him better, because, you know, tracking drums on a Carole King song in Capitol Records, that implies to me that like, okay, you probably did more than just that. You're probably
Right.
doing other things. And that also tells me that he probably has a handful of drum kits. He
Yeah,
probably has a bunch. He had a huge house
What
up in
other
the
kits
valley.
do
You
you
know?
have for sale, man?
Well, I feel bad too. I remember when I bought it from him, he kind of like put me on the spot asking if he had found a similar wood stained like kind of kick drum from a little cocktail kit that he flipped on its side and drilled holes in to put legs on, and he used it as like a Bonham style, like the double floor tom kit. But that drum wasn't part of the original
Oh,
kit.
okay.
And he asked me kind of on the fly, like, do you also want to buy this? It matches with the rest of the drum set. And I was, you know, a broke 23-year-old, 22-year-old, however old, and I just did not have the money.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish, but I can't. And I told him that I would try to like follow up with him, and I didn't have the money. you
Yeah.
know?
Darn.
I know.
So let's run down the sizes here. What you got?
We got 13 by 8 rack, 16 floor tom, 24 by 14 kick, and then my snare doesn't match. It's a Gretsch, and I think it's a 6.5 by 14, pretty standard, and it's a wood shell. Again, I'm so bad I don't know the type of wood on it, but playing in a band years ago, and the singer of the band had let me borrow his snare, this same model that I have here. And then band broke up, I moved to LA, I had the snare still for so long. And then years later, he hits me up, he's like, hey, do you still have my snare? Can I have it back? And I was like, yeah, of course, But then all of a sudden, I'm like, shit, I want that snare back. So I went out and I found the exact same one.
Okay. Right on.
Back in 2008, 9, 10, something like that.
Okay. So what's your dream kit?
I'm a simple man, I like this kit, but if I was to get something more modern, I mean, I love DWs. Like whenever you sit behind like a DW where it's like perfectly tuned, like it feels so good. But I love the vintage kits too, you know, like I love the old Slingerlands and Rogers. I also, oh my gosh, why am I blanking the name of it? There's this boutique drum kit that I recorded the drums for the Giant Waste of Man biographer record. We tracked it up in Stinson Beach at a studio called Panoramic House. And the house kit they had there is just this beautiful boutique kit, and I feel so bad that I can't think of the name of it, but it has this it's like a darkwood stain with like the pearl inlays on it.
Noble and Cooley?
No, I feel like it was with like a B.
Barton, maybe?
I don't know. I'll look it up and I'll text it to you. but
To be continued.
To be continued. But I don't know. But honestly, like I love my kit. I don't really dream of anything beyond it. You know.
That's what's up, man. I mean, yeah, it's really cool. It's the natural gloss and
yeah. I also with this kit, yeah, it's like the dark wood stain, and they made so many of the light wood stain. Like I'm sure you've seen a lot more of those around.
Mhm,
And,
yeah.
and apparently they only did the dark stain for the first like 2 years or so, because they were getting complaints from people that the stain was fading. Like if it sat in the sun, that like
Oh.
the color would dull on it. So they discontinued it and started just doing the light wood stain. So there's tons of those out there, but not a ton of the dark wood.
That's a good, like, good for them for just doing that. I would have a problem with people leaving their kits out in the sun.
Yeah, I mean,
Just be
that's,
like,
that's
well,
also like maybe you
just
shouldn't do that.
Cover your shit, dude.
Yeah, or
but
like close the blinds.
yeah, but yeah, that's true. All the light ones are more common now that I think about it. Right on.
What else on the kit? I've got. I was a Zildjian player for years. I've got 14-inch hats. The bottom is the same New Beat hat that I bought in high school.
Wow.
It's just like I haven't broken my bottom hat, and it sounds good, so why replace it?
Totally.
I've gone through a couple of top hats. This was a hand-me-down from an old friend as a Z custom.
Okay.
But I think the two of them sound nice together.
Right on.
What do we got over here? It's another hand-me-down from a buddy, but it was a Zildjian A Custom Projection Crash 18-inch.
That'll cut.
Yeah, it's great, and I've been really impressed with how well it's held up, because crashes are what I usually go through a ton of. It's,
Same.
but you know, like you said, maybe I'm just, you know, my technique is softened over the years, I guess.
You set up very similar to the way I do. Like everything's more like horizontal to the ground, or
Yeah.
parallel to the ground.
Yeah, I like to keep it kind of low too. Like I think that might be a little bit of that comes from marching band, and you know, playing like marching snare, or like when you have like the quads out and it's like all like flat and surrounding you, and like you move around to get to it instead of I don't know, you look at like especially like the 90s drummers where it's like massive toms and they're like angled like right up at you and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's just never been my style.
Yeah, yeah, same. And then you've got some other goodies over there, cymbal-wise. In Istanbul hi-hats, are those yours?
Those are I think those are my bandmate Cameron's. He is a great drummer himself.
Okay.
But in this room there's just a handful of roommates and you know, random pieces of everyone's kits kind of hanging around. But yeah, I think those are Cam's.
Okay. Very cool. Dude, I want to talk about Q1Q a little bit, because that out of all the bands I've heard that you played in, they're my favorite. And I thought like the promotion was really cool, like all the whole aesthetic, like it was like math rocky and kind of like
Yeah.
static TV. Kind
Yeah,
of
and
like
a lot of the
advertising.
visual aspect was my bandmate Sean, and that he did all of like the little like video shorts that were like staticky and
Super
you know,
cool.
like, clipping and stuff. The black and white aesthetic was something that Ben from Giant Waste of Man, he and I were in Q&Q together.
Okay.
Along with Sean Foy was playing bass. But Ben very early on decided like, all right, Q&Q's aesthetic, we want to be black and white. Everything's black and white. And I loved it, and I feel like it went along well with the music too. You know, that was a really fun band. It was an interesting band. You know, we did a lot of instrumental stuff. We would have a bunch of songs that wouldn't have any vocals, and some songs where there would just be like of a lyric line kind of on the bridge, like in place of a guitar solo. It's like, here's the vocal, you know? But I always loved that because it felt like we were using the vocal just as another contributing instrument instead of like the main focus. We loved playing with time signatures. Ben has such a fun, creative mind in that, you know, he didn't have never took any lessons or training, doesn't read music, but he just has a really cool, like the way his brain tries to like make things angular when he wants to make something unique. And he'd come in with a riff, and I want to sit there and figure out like, all right, what time signature are you in? He has no idea. And so I'd be like, all right, play it on a loop for me. And I'd figure it out, and I'd be like, all right, you know, you're playing 7/8 for 5 measures, but then every 6th measure, it's like you're adding 2 more 8th notes. And it's like, what are you doing here? I have no idea. But I guess if I just sit here and count it along, then I can write a beat to it. And then eventually it sticks. And then eventually we start to like flow together. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Frank Zappa said something about that. He was talking about odd times, and he's like, yeah, it's not really that hard when you just like finally understand the groove
Yeah, totally.
of what it is. You know, it's like it's written a certain way, and that's just, it is what it is. And then once you understand that, and that kind of made more sense to me when I was like approaching odd time shit, because my guitar player will do the same thing. He'll just write weird stuff, and I'm like, same thing, just play it on loop, and I guess I'll figure it out.
But for me, the way that I would always do it is like I'd sit there and I would find the time signature, and for the first long while of rehearsing it and writing it, I'd need to be like actively counting. But then at a certain point, like you realize like, okay, now I know the groove, I know the feel, and I don't have to be paying attention to that aspect, and I can just focus more on making it feel good.
Yeah, exactly. And you guys played some cool venues up here, like Echo and stuff.
We played around a bunch. Yeah, we played, you know, the Echo in Spaceland, and played a ton of shows at the Hi-Hat. Did you ever go to that place in Highland Park?
Is it still there? Or?
It was one of the first places to, you know, victim of COVID.
Shit.
They didn't make it, but it was a great venue. We always would joke that it kind of felt like our clubhouse, you know. Our friend Britt was the talent buyer, and she, whenever we wanted to put on a show, we'd approach her, and she'd be like, "Great, like put together a bill for me, and let's pick a date." And so we did so many like family shows there. Like it was always with friends, and because of that, we would always bring out a big group of friends. We'd have a nice draw, and it just always turned into a party.
Right on.
But what else? We played, so many of the venues around town.
What's your favorite place in LA?
I mean, RIP to the Satellite, which Spaceland turned into the Satellite. But they were another, victim of COVID. We played there right before the world shut down. And I have a photo that I took of Ben and Gam, my bandmates, standing in front of the marquee with our name on there. And we were the second to last show before they, shut down, before the world shut down. And they didn't announce that they were actually like closing the venue and weren't going to come back for, a year or something of the world being, in pandemic land. And when they announced that they were closing, that made that photo that much more special of, hey, that the marquee has the last 2 shows that ever hit that stage.
That's really cool.
So it feels really special that we got to be one of the last people up there, but I wish it wasn't so. I wish that they came back and that we could play there again, and that everyone could keep playing there.
Well, dude, I have to say, when we were walking up here, you said that you moved up here right after high school, pretty much like 08, 09, and I it's super impressive that you were able to just like come up here, make a life for yourself, like join bands. You're also an excellent photographer.
Oh, thanks, man.
And it's really cool, having stayed in Orange County for most of the time. it's like, you know, there's kind of a lot of like what ifs, and it's cool to see you do it, and then sitting in this room, it's like it's pretty fucking cool, dude.
It's fun, man. Thank you, by the way. Yeah, I'm, you know, kind of landed in LA like a little bit by chance. I had been thinking that I wanted to move even farther north. I wanted to go like Bay Area, and just, you know, for whatever reason, I was never motivated to make it happen right then. And then kind of like a bunch of things fell in line where I had finished I was doing community college at Golden West in Huntington for like the recording program they have there.
Oh, sweet.
But, you know, all in kind of like a short amount of time, I had like finished that program. The band I was playing in Orange County had broken up. Girl I was dating and I broke up. And then some friends who lived in LA in Echo Park had a room opening up, and they're just like, hey, like, we need a roommate. And I said, cool, yeah, I'm in.
Right on.
And didn't put that much more thought into it, and I never left. You know, but yeah, moving up here and just making friends in the scene. It was nice being in the neighborhood where I was for so long in Echo Park, because it was just, you know, walking distance to so many cool venues, and made friends with all of the kids about our age around town who were also playing music and also doing cool things. Buddy of mine, or two friends of mine, Neil Shield and Sean Stentz, opened Origami Vinyl, was a record store that was right next door to the Echo for many years.
Okay, I think I went in there.
And I like kind of like helped them open it, and I would like, you know, pick up shifts and work there every once in a while, and they'd have live shows in store. And through that, I feel like I met everybody involved in music that was in the neighborhood, at least at the time. And yeah, I got like welcomed into a really creative and motivated community, which, you know, since has like evolved. I feel like most of the people from then have, you know, had kids and moved out of town, or moved to New York, or just stopped playing music and got a real job. You know?
Yeah, real jobs. Well, it's super admirable.
Thanks,
Very
man.
cool. Brandon, what does drumming mean to you?
Oh my. Just collaboration, I guess. You know, being the backbone of the band. You know, rhythm. It's syncopation. It's like I said earlier, it's like kind of like mathematically satisfying to me. You know, but it's also like feel. You know, it's like playing a show, and if the band's all moving together, then, you know, who cares if you push and pull a little bit? You know?
Right.
As long as everyone's like locked in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the unique thing about humans playing music versus just like programming it.
Totally. Yeah.
When you look at the transients on like a DAW or something, and you see, like, I'm always a little bit ahead of the beat. You know?
Yeah, totally. Same.
But so is my guitar player, so like it makes the band like bounce that way. You know, we're very like, you know, excited, like upbeat metal. And then there are the guys that are like behind the beat, and
Which I've always wanted to be one of those drummers, like super like relaxed behind the beat. But I think, you know, growing up playing in punk bands, it's like I'm just like, I want to go. I want to go fast.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I get a similar feeling from like Wailing on the Ride, playing a fast beat, that I do when I'm driving fast at night.
Kinda,
You know, it's like when I'm doing like a fucking like 8th feel on the fucking ride. It's like, I don't know, like driving in the dark or something. I don't know why they're similar, but I've always kind of equated the two.
But there's like adrenaline that comes in, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Or you know what I did for a long while too, just with, you know, old bands, is I would always like rehearse with a click, and that way you're like rehearsing good habits. It's like the, you know, transition from verse to chorus feels like this. So when you play live without the click, it's like, you know, still holds pretty strong.
Yeah, no, that's smart. I mean, I wish I would have started doing that a lot sooner than I did.
Same.
with
I
the
mean, I
click.
should have started doing it years earlier.
Everyone always tells you, oh, you got to play with the click, and then when you finally do, you're like, that's why.
Well, I feel like honestly, that was one of the things when I moved to LA and started playing with other musicians. Just realizing like, okay, if I want to take this seriously, then I need to get better at that. You know, just like playing with a click. Like when you're in the studio, and you're trying to come across as a professional, and the engineer looks at you like, what do you mean you don't play to a click? You know,
Right.
like-
Yeah. Please
Yeah.
don't make this the hardest job in the world.
yeah.
So that's a good segue into this question. What are a few tips that you would give listeners?
Like beginning drummers,
Anyone.
just anyone. Have fun. Practice. You know, I with the kid now, and just life getting busier, I don't get behind the kit as often. We're still in here at least once a week. Oftentimes more than that if we have something fun coming up. But practice, keep your chops up, and don't get discouraged when your chops are down. Say like you miss a couple weeks in a row and you're itching for it, and then you come back in and you are playing sloppier than you think you should. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. It'll come back.
Yeah. Right on. Dude, you brought up Gabe, so we got to dig into that a little bit.
R.I.P..
Yeah, R.I.P. Man, that was crazy. My buddy texted me. I was like waking up next to my girlfriend at the time, and I was just like, oh no. And she was like, what? And I was like, you wouldn't understand. I'm not going to like show you this band and like run it down for you, but this was the most creative punk drummer of all time.
Just yeah. And when I first heard the Locust, I think Plague Soundscapes was the first thing that I heard from them, and I didn't know what to do with it. It like kind of scared me off for a second. I was like, I can't understand that. I can't digest that. I like waited a few days and like kind of came back and tried again. I'm like, okay, how? Why?
Yeah.
What? And then it like almost initially felt like a novelty to me. I was like, this is so wild and weird. I love it. But then the more you listen to it, the more you realize like, oh, it's intentional.
Yeah.
Like everything is very specific.
Yes.
And integrated
Precise.
and precise, and yeah, totally.
What's your favorite, if you had to pick out of their stuff?
I mean, honestly, the first record is what still holds my love.
Yeah.
Like I saw them live a couple different times, and they're always great. But I don't know. Yeah, Plague Soundscapes is what I always come back to.
For sure.
What about yourself?
Oh man. Well, I got the Safety Second Body Last tattoo, and that it has my favorite part in it. If you listen to the CD, or I guess the vinyl, it's just like side 2, and it's like the big like dun 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 dun, and then it goes into this really fast part, and there's just like this sequence that I've probably listened to 1,000 times. Like on an airplane, like I'll just scroll back and forth, like back to like the minute mark to hear
Trying
the
to
beginning.
digest it.
Yeah, and it took me years to figure out like what he was doing, and then like I still can't play that. It's like, will I ever be able to figure it out? But yeah, I think Plague Soundscapes. I mean, it's funny, I was watching they did a documentary called Don't Fall in Love with Yourself.
It's recent, right?
Yeah, it just came out last week.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it. I definitely gonna watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it off of Vimeo. It's about Justin Pearson, but all the Locust guys are in it, and they talk. A big portion of it is the Locust because, of course, and
He's been in 1,000 bands, but I feel like that's the big one.
that's the big one. Yeah, and they talk about how I think that band started in '95, and they were just like doing like shitty like $1,000 recording type of things, and then they got hooked. They got hooked up with like a better promoter booker that put them in touch with Brett Gurewitz from Epitaph. And he was like, yeah, I want to put you on Epitaph. And they're like, fuck Epitaph, because NoFX and Offspring.
Sure.
And then Anti was basically the same thing, but it was like the sub label, and it had like Tom Waits and Nick Cave on it. And they're like, that's it.
Yeah.
And then they got set up with Alex Newport, who was doing like Mars Volta and producing like
So many things.
yeah, so many cool things. And that Plague Soundscapes was 100% analog. So if you listen to vinyl, it's
Wow.
Recorded on 2-inch tape,
Love it.
pressed, and then they went into the digital realm. But
But how wild to like go back and listen to that record and realize It's like, all right, there's no Pro Tools magic in there.
No.
It's like they're playing that.
It's yeah, it's just all perfect. I mean, and that came out in 03,
Wow.
so that's 20 years ago. And in my opinion, nothing has come close to what they were able to do. Like as far as like the weirdness and how eccentric and bizarre and absurd and like,
Well, it also just it felt so fresh at
Yeah.
the time. Like no, I'd never heard anything like it, and I'd been listening to like different like punk and hardcore bands, but nothing hit me like that
For sure.
And stuff that Justin's doing now. I mean, Def Club is super cool.
yeah,
And like Retox that he was doing for a while, like I loved them too. But yeah, I don't know. There's something nostalgic about just the chaos
Yeah.
of early Locust.
and it's Gabe's drumming. I mean,
Totally. Yeah,
that's some of the Stuart Copeland kind of stuff, like putting like snare beats on one, and I mean, there's so much to dig into what he's doing. That's like, I don't know if you've seen the Thomas Lang Drumeo video that he did a few
don't think
years
so.
ago. Well, he talks about drum rudiments and how they are basically just like everything.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. Agreed.
Like singles, doubles, triples, 4-stroke roll, 5, 6 onward. And once I watched that video, like I started listening to some of Gabe's parts again, and he was just like, I think he learned all that stuff really early on. He was able to integrate that stuff, but use it creatively, like 5-stroke rolls, and like place it everywhere on the kit, but like in unique places. And I just, as a drummer, and being every drummer, when you're writing a song, like you're an integral part of the process.
Totally.
Like how, just still can't figure out like how did they come up with parts, and then he was like, well, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, I always used to imagine that it was like, all right, he must have just written that drum part first, and they wrote music around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. Like a lot of drum rudiments, I think back to marching band, like warm ups and stuff that we would do, and it's a lot of syncopation. And you think back to those early Locust recordings, and it's a lot of like the warm ups with like that da 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 da, and it's like that's what we used to do, and you just like trade it back and forth on your right and left hand, and
Right.
it's like, okay, he's just really clean and fast and loud.
Yeah. Well, he had a 24-inch kick.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he had
I
like
love it.
14-inch rack and 18-inch floor. So it's just thunderous, you
Yeah.
know. Fucking
When
face.
we were doing Q&Q years ago, Ben, which bandmate Ben is also an incredible drummer. We're a band of drummers, and he has an old 70-something Ludwig Vistalite kit,
Ooh.
and his kick is 2614.
Fuck.
And the floor tom was, I don't even know, but like probably 20
Wow.
by like 16 or 18, but when it's tuned well, it's the most incredible thing. But that big of a floor tom is so hard to get tuned well.
Yeah. Yeah, my God.
And especially, if you're playing it loud and hard, then it comes detuned pretty quick too. So,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful kit to look at, but we, I would always come back to mine.
For sure. Yeah, I've thought about like emulating his sizes for a future kit, but I play similar to yours. I just have a 22 by 16, but
Which is also a great kick.
it's just it's controlled. I mean, but that's the thing, is I've never owned a 24, and I want a 24.
It's nice.
Like your sizes are very attractive to me.
Yeah. Hey. Well, and especially when you put like a modern batter kick head on like a big vintage kick drum, it sounds so nice. I've got the Aquarian Super Kick 2 that has like the little like foam padding ring
Yeah.
around it, and as soon as I put that head on this kick, just game over. Like right away, I'm like, okay, this is my favorite kick I've ever played.
Fuck. Yeah, man, I used to use those kick heads religiously. And then one of the drummers at my lockout, I don't know what the deal was, but he just started, I think he got like an endorsement or he got a hookup on heads, and he went through like 50 heads.
Wow.
Of like every size. And they're all the sizes that I use.
Yeah.
So I still have like a,
Did you get a bunch of hand-me-downs?
yeah, they'd been used like once or twice, as he was like, he plays for Voodoo Glow Skulls.
Oh yeah. Totally.
So yeah, he must have just gotten like a deal, and he was trying to figure out what he liked best. And I didn't take all of the heads, like a bunch of other drummers. You know, I was for a while there. I was just like taking like one or two every time I walked by. I was like a few times a week.
Yeah.
So I put some back because I felt bad. But I still have like, I don't know, like years worth.
Yeah, you're stocked.
Yeah, I'm stocked. And so I've got the opportunity to use different shit. And I don't know why I always like had an aversion to Evans, but now I'm starting to really like their heads.
You know, I feel the same way. That I don't know why I had like an aversion for so long, but honestly, like at the end of the day, I don't notice enough of a difference between the different brands. You know?
Yeah.
The only reason I call out this Super Kick 2 specifically is just that foam padding on it is
Totally
the game changer. You know.
You don't even have to put anything in the kick if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just like a small little blanket in there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just like it's got the right thud that fits with what I'm trying to do.
Totally. Right on, Brandon.
All right.
Anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Really excited for what you're doing with the Clockwork Percussion.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's just the podcast, the upcoming products. It's just, I'm proud of you. It's fucking cool, man.
Thank you. It feels good to be on like a course that, you know, every day it's something new to think about. And
Yeah, but it's exciting. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thanks. Yeah. Lots to come, but thanks for being a part of the podcast, man. It's great to get your story down, and
Thanks, man.
love to have you on again.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Of course. Thanks for having me here.